In the last episode, we built the skeleton, shapes and timing, nothing more. Today, Tom starts to arrive. This is part 1 of replacing every single one of those rough mannequin poses with actual Tom. Same timing, same energy, just with the character finally showing up. What you're watching me do here is probably the oldest technique in animation study. I've got the original episode paused on a second screen and I'm eyeballing it. Not tracing, not projecting, just looking, understanding, and then drawing. There's a critical distinction in that. When you trace something, you get the shape, but you miss the decision. When you eyeball it, when you have to look away, and then reconstruct, you start to understand why each line is where it is. You're forced to think like the animator who made it. And what I'm chasing here isn't perfect likeness, it's personality. I want to feel what they felt when they drew him. That cat who knows he's got the house to himself. If I capture that in the gesture first, the likeness follows naturally. While I was working on the landing frame, Tom hitting the ground after the jump, something clicked that I want to share. Because I think it's one of the cleverest things about this entire style of character design. Look at Tom's torso. It's essentially a beanbag. Soft, formless, no rigid structure implied anywhere. And that design choice isn't accidental. It's the foundation that makes everything else in this animation believable. Here's what I mean. When Tom squashes on that landing, his entire body compresses like a rubber ball. Our brain accepts it instantly. There's no resistance, no moment of, that doesn't look right. And the reason is simple. A beanbag can be squashed and stretched. Our minds have no objection to it because the design never suggested anything rigid in the first place. Now think about a character like Johnny Bravo. Muscular, defined, clearly structured body. You could technically apply the same squash and stretch principles to him, and animators do, but not in the same way. Because your brain flags it as slightly odd. Because this design is telling you one thing and the movement is telling you another. The visual contract has been broken. There's a cognitive friction, however brief. With Tom and Jerry, that friction never exists. The acceptance is instantaneous, almost unconscious. The audience never has to decide whether to believe what they're seeing, they just do. And that's entirely by design. Hanna-Barbera and their team weren't just drawing funny cats. They were engineering a visual language that would let them break the laws of physics without the audience ever noticing they'd done it. That's what I'm trying to absorb by recreating this. Not just how to draw Tom, but why Tom is drawn the way he is. Let me know if you agree or disagree with this analysis by commenting. If nothing else, you would be supporting the channel by nudging the YouTube algorithm. want to talk about something that might seem like a small detail, but is actually one of the most sophisticated things about how Tom is animated in this sequence. And it's something I might have completely missed if I wasn't drawing every frame myself. Look at this left hand, the passive one. The hand that isn't pointing, isn't gesturing dramatically, isn't doing the main expressive work. In lesser animation, the passive hand just hangs there, is dead weight. It gets forgotten because the animator is focused on the active side. But in this sequence, Tom's passive hand is always doing something. A soft curve, a gentle curl, a subtle shape that has quiet intention behind it. It's not reaching for anything, it's not making a point, but it's never absent either. What's happening is a form of visual counterbalance that works on two levels simultaneously. On the compositional level, an active gesture on one side of the body creates a kind of visual tension that needs resolution. The passive hand provides that resolution. It completes the shape of Tom as a whole, giving the eye somewhere to land after it follows the active gesture across the frame. But on the character level, it's doing something even more interesting. A completely limp passive hand reads as a puppet. A passive hand with subtle, contained intention reads as a living thing that is choosing not to gesture, which is a fundamentally different statement. Tom's left hand in this sequence isn't active, it's restrained, and restraint implies consciousness. It implies a character who is present in their whole body, not just in the hand that's doing the dramatic thing. The masters understood that character is only as alive as their least active moment. And when I draw that passive hand, when I have to make the same decision about what shape it takes, I feel exactly what they were thinking. Every mark is intentional, nothing is left to chance. There's something I noticed while working on the strut and the laugh later in the sequence that genuinely surprised me, and I want to point it out because it speaks to the level of craft that went into these cartoons. Watch Tom's back as he shifts his weight into the strut and again as he rises his arm back into the laugh. You can clearly see the scapula, the shoulder blade pushing through the surface of the body. It bulges outwards with the movement in a way that is anatomically accurate. That detail doesn't need to be there. Tom is a cartoon cat. Nobody would have noticed it if it was missing. And yet someone in that studio working on a cartoon in the 1950s on a deadline for a television audience made the decision to include it. And they included it not because they were being pedantic about anatomy, but because it makes Tom feel real. This is the paradox at the heart of great character animation. The design is wildly exaggerated, the proportions are impossible, the expressions are beyond human range, and yet the anatomy underneath is never compromised. The masters understood that exaggeration only reads as intentional when it's grounded in something true. Without that anatomical honesty, the exaggeration just looks wrong rather than expressive. So while Tom is neither human nor realistic, he moves in a way that our bodies recognize. That scapula, that weight shift through the hips, the way his spine responds to his center of gravity, it's all there, quietly making him relatable and physical even though he's just ink on paper. That's what I'm trying to feel my way into frame by frame. And you can't get there by looking at it, you only get there by drawing it. Look at where we are now. Tom is emerging properly. The peep, the landing, the fourth wall moment, the early strut. He's not complete yet, but he's recognizably himself. What strikes me every time I play this back at speed is how much information is packed into what is ultimately about 6 seconds of screen time. 6 seconds of a cartoon cat being pleased with himself, and yet there are enough animation principles in there, enough design philosophy, enough deliberate craft to keep me thinking about it for weeks. That's the thing about the masters. They weren't just technically gifted, they were economical. Nothing is wasted. Every pose serves a purpose. Every transition earns its place. The more I sit with this sequence, the more I understand that the real skill isn't in how much you put in, it's in how little you need. In the next episode, I'm finishing the key pose replacement, the strut, the weight shift, and that laugh, and once all the keys are in place, we will move to the in-betweens, which is where the sequence either lives or dies. If you want to follow this in real time before the YouTube schedule catches up, the project files and early access videos are on my Patreon. Link is in description. Keep animating and I'll see you in the next part.